brothers, sisters, and friends. Welcome back to another very, very important and very special Q&A brought to you by my Muslim family. It's been a while, and I know that you've had plenty of questions that you want answered. So, inshallah, today we are going to bring back our very esteemed and beloved Shaykh Shaqur Rehman, who will be able to answer some of those very important questions, inshallah. Let's just bring them onto the screen now. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Shaykh, how are you doing?
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Very well, mashallah. Jazakallah khair.
Barakallah
How's
feek.
how's family?
Yeah, alhamdulillah, everyone is fine, Sheikh. Everyone's very, very good, and everyone's looking forward to, another Q&A, because this is one of those rare times. I mean, I know these things exist. You can find them on various different channels and networks and so on. But this is very, very specific and special because of our members and some of our non-members as well, who, are listening. They have a few questions they want answered as well. And I've always gotten so much benefit from the answers that we get from you. So I think everyone also feels the same. So I'm thinking, why don't we just get straight into it, inshallah? And I know that everyone's going to be having some question of their own that they want to add today live. If we do have time, brothers and sisters, we will take some of your questions. But obviously, members have our priority. So if you haven't already joined up to My Muslim Family, to the network, make sure you do by going to mymuslimfamily.com and sign up, because there are so many beneficial courses, series, so on. It's really, really worth your while, inshallah. So without further ado, we're going to get on to the very first question, Sheikh. A sister, she's asking, to what extent are wives commanded to obey their husbands? She goes on to say, my husband is quite far from the deen at present. He cares more about money making and Indian family traditions. I'm a proactive Muslimah, and my husband is very restrictive and controlling about me seeing family, friends, and being active in the local Muslim women community building. For example, there was the Palestine protest today, which I believe needs our support. However, he went to work, and he has flexible hours. He asked me to not go without him. Sorry, he asked me to not go without him. I wouldn't be able to manage alone, as I have 3 young children. But in all honesty, I would go if I found the right person to go with. For example, a close friend or my sister-in-law. But he is unhappy with such ideas. Another example is he dislikes me attending local halakas. So, Sheikh, what is your advice with this in accordance to the deen? Am I obliged to obey when there's little reason? My understanding is that Allah is merciful and just. He is aware that everyone has a different level of religiosity. How I have interpreted this commandment is that my husband has full right to stop me from sin, that which goes against Allah's commandments and guidance, but not in all aspects which inhibits my positive personal growth. Am I correct?
Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah. Wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulillah amma ba'd. Now, the sister, obviously, she wants to progress in her deen. She wants to have fulfillment in that side of things. And she's not one of those people who wants to stay at a mediocre level. She wants to move herself forward. May Allah grant her that progression.
I mean,
and bring her husband to that same idea and that same page. Now, that said, the husband's role in leading the family is a vital one. And if there's discord in the family, it's going to have negative impact on everyone in the household. So we need to look at the guidance of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, لو كنت آمرا أحدا أن يسجد لأحد. If I would have ordered anyone to prostrate to someone, لأمرت الزوجة أن تسجد لزوجها. I would have ordered the wife to prostrate to the husband because of the right that he has over her. And we need to also look to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ in the Musnad of Imam Ahmad, where basically the Prophet ﷺ said, لا تؤدي المرأة, the woman is not able to fulfill the right of Allah until she fulfills يعني the right of her husband كاملا, completely. So the husband's right as a husband يعني is so obligatory, so high in the estimation of Allah and His Messenger, that we need to be very careful when we are maneuvering in these types of very sensitive issues. And they are very sensitive because the family is the most important building block of society. So any discord in the family is going to cause detrimental effects in the whole of society. So the Sharia puts so much emphasis on it. Now, with that said, the Prophet ﷺ also said, Khairun Nisa, the best of women are which ones? التي تسره إذا نظر. يعني the wife that pleases the husband when he looks at her. وتطيعه إذا أمر. And she is the one who wants to please him and make him happy, or obeys him and follows his instructions if he orders her with something. ولا تخالفه في نفسها ومالها فيما يكره. And she doesn't go against what he wants in anything that he dislikes. So, the ahadith are so very specific on this issue. Now, the sister expressed that, the way she saw things was that if she's doing a haram, obviously he has every right to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. Likewise for her, yani, if he was doing any haram, she needs to enjoin the good and forbid the evil. This is the right of every Muslim. When you see another Muslim doing something wrong, you have to stand up against that wrong and enjoin the right. But the right of the husband goes much further than that. As long as he is not ordering with any kind of disobedience, if he orders something that is halal, then the wife obligated to listen to the husband. Okay, so that's in the general rulings of Islam, which we have to keep in mind. Now, the second thing that we have to bear in mind here, in the scenario that the sister is painting here, right? Human beings are always going to be human beings. Yeah, husbands, and as you're into a marriage and you've had many years together, and she said she's got 3 children, so she's been married maybe 5, 6 years, or maybe a little bit longer. In this kind of relationship, he has his focus, his role, she has her focus, her role. They're getting on with things. And sometimes just the routine, and especially some types of husbands, and she describes a husband involved in Indian culture and that kind of priority. Those types of characters are normally very routine focused. They don't like to break from routine. Yeah, I know it's a generalization, and there are pros and cons with generalizations, but she needs to be aware of that and maneuver bearing that in mind. Now, how do you maneuver with a husband like this who is unhappy about her doing things and she wants to do these things? Now, the sister, I would advise her to approach her husband at times when he is more likely to be agreeable. When she's made him a nice meal, when everything's tidy, the children are looked after, everything's in place, in order, and he's happy with her generally. So in those kind of times, he's going to be more agreeable to something that you present than in other times. So that's one aspect. Choose the right time to speak to him about these types of things. You want him to move forward. Have something else that you do with your husband to, build that relationship and build that kind of working relationship where you're doing something together, so there's an alignment between you and your husband. At the moment, it looks like in this relationship, they are very much misaligned. She has a way of looking at things. She's very religiously oriented. He's not. He's money focused, and that is something not completely negative. Money focused might just be the man thinking about his responsibilities, how much he has to earn with the cost of living going up all the time. Price is always going up. Obviously, he's going to be concerned because this is his role as a man. He needs to provide for the family. So it's not all negative that he's looking at things like this. It shows that he's generally a responsible type of person. He's not being silly about it. But maybe he doesn't have, as she kind of alluded to, that religious mindset which would make you do certain other things, go out of your way to support the Muslims who are in need, especially in Gaza. May Allah relieve them from the oppression that they're facing, from the tyranny and the apartheid and the occupation and the genocide that's been committed. May Allah give them victory. Now, get him onto the same page as you, and then all of your worries are taken care of. Okay? Until that time comes, and that will be slow baby steps to get him involved in religious circles, and normally with men, that's more to do with casual conversations first. So the man becomes comfortable about talking about deen, about religion, rather than trying to get him to go to an Islamic talk straight away. Because this type of man, if you try to put him in an Islamic talk straight away, he's going to be very put off, and he's going to have his barriers up and refuse to go. But if there is a way to get him to befriend someone who's going to engage him in those conversations, such that he becomes comfortable in religious conversations, then he will be primed, ready to be able to go to some kind of, not full on Islamic events, but an Islamic event with activities for the family, which has some short reminders, etc. Then after that, it builds up until he's comfortable with short Islamic reminders, general Islamic reminders. Then after that stage, then you can move on to more serious lectures and Islamic events, etc. So she needs to work on her husband like this. Now, in the meantime, her husband doesn't want her to go to the demonstrations, for instance. Her husband doesn't want her to go to these local circles with these women. She needs to have that conversation with him. And she needs to be open about that conversation, saying to him that, okay, I want to understand, what is it that's causing you to be, very averse to these things, and you don't want me to go. So first understand his reasoning, and he will have clear reasoning for it. Maybe it's a time issue, maybe it's a jealousy issue, a free mixing issue. It could be issues of her safety, all of these things. So she needs to understand where he's coming from. So she needs to have that conversation where she's listening and taking in what he's saying without listening to attack. It has to be real listening to understand his point of view, without interrupting him, without attacking him, and then addressing those concerns, and then coming to some kind of compromise if that's any possible. It could just be, you know what, I fear for your safety, and in these types of events, you're going out, I don't want you going out late at night. It could be the case that he feels, and it doesn't have to be the case, but he feels, hang on, the house is not tidy as I want it tidy, and the housework is not done regularly, and the children have so many needs that are not being taken care of, and you want to do other things. So if that's the perception of the father, of the husband, then clearly he's going to have his objections about her doing other things, because what he sees as the most important things for her to be doing as a wife, he feels they're not being met. So that has to be taken care of. Many husbands are like that. They have this idea of what the house should look like, the core role of the wife. And if he feels that she's neglecting that role, he won't want her to do other things. So you may have to address those types of issues, and then have a better system and understand what his expectations are, make sure they're all met. So then he has very little excuse to object for you doing other things, because you've taken care of all your tasks. Right, so then you have the other scenario. Okay, say if he has no justification, and this is very rare. Okay, no justification whatsoever, he just doesn't want it done. In that scenario, I would say to the sister, because Allah has ordered her to be a dutiful wife and to please her husband and not to create animosity in the marriage, if she, yani, as she expressed, wants to be the best Muslim as she can be, I would say to her, find avenues of helping the Muslims in Palestine and elsewhere through avenues where you don't have to leave the house because your husband doesn't want you to. Okay, I would say get involved in letter writing, involved in the behind the scenes, the administration, the logistical side of things when it comes to all of these types of boycotting, protesting, campaigns in general. Do it like that. And even when it comes to circles and mixing with sisters, etc., try to arrange something in your own house. Maybe he'll accept that. If you can't, then do things online with sisters, because that's always an option. I wouldn't say go down the line of disobeying your husband even though you know he's displeased with those things, because it's such a grave issue and sensitive issue with Allah and His Messenger. And if you do that, seeking Allah's pleasure and minimizing the harm in your marriage, Allah will open doors for you in ways that you could never perceive and give you rewards that perhaps you would never achieve by attending and going physically to those things. Because Allah is the one who said very clearly, وَمَن يَتَّقِ اللَّهَ يَجْعَل لَّهُ مَخْرَجًا. Whoever fears Allah, He will make for him or her a way out. وَيَرْزُقُهُ مِنْ حَيْثُ لَا يَحْتَسِبُ. And He will provide for them in ways that they cannot perceive. مَن تَرَكَ شَيْئًا لِلَّهِ أَوَضَّهُ خَيْرًا مِنْهَا. Whoever leaves a thing for the sake of Allah, then Allah gives them that which is better than it. So keep that in mind. It's not the thing that you actually should be aiming at. It's the reward from Allah which is actually the goal. So don't make the means the goal, but rather remember, the goal of all of us should be the pleasure of Allah, wherever that pleasure lies, not in a particular means. And in your case, my sister, the issue of attending halaqas with sisters and going to protests or demonstrations, etc. Those are all means to achieve the pleasure of Allah. So put the pleasure of Allah first and do whatever the pleasure of Allah dictates. And part of one of the greatest things a woman can do is to please her husband. Because the Prophet ﷺ, he said very clearly, إذا صامت إذا صلت خمسها, if she prays her 5 daily prayers, the Muslim woman, وصامت شهرها, and she fasts her month of Ramadan, وحفظت فرجها, and she guards her chastity, وأطاعت بعلها or زوجها, and she makes her husband pleased with her, then it is said to her, Yawm al-Qiyamah, enter from any of the gates of paradise, the 8 gates of paradise you wish. So remember how important and significant this deed is, and don't lose out on the reward because you make the means, the goal, the objective that you seek. And Allah knows best. Are there any more questions?